topic is security solutions for the supply chain, and my guest is Jamie Rutherford. He is Director of Sales for Supply Chain with Vector Security Networks. Hi, Jamie.
Good morning, Bob.
So tell me a little bit about what are the leading drivers that you see out there in the supply chain industry, specifically supply chain industry, relating to purchasing security systems and solutions.
Yeah, there are really four leading drivers, I feel like. One of them is data-driven operations. Folks want one pane of glass to manage their network from. And I think that's pretty consistent across any industry. You don't want to be dealing with multiple vendors. Customers would like to deal with a single source solution, right? And so therefore it gives an advantage to companies that are North American based or globally based because with the supply chain we see that they don't stop building warehouses at the water's edge or at the Canadian border or anywhere else. You know, they're expanding at an exponential rate. Thirdly, we know that there's always going to be a component of asset protection, right? We're housing this merchandise, whether it's T-bone steaks, caviar, or trinkets on a bracelet. That inventory is important to somebody, and protecting it is supremely important. Fourth, and certainly not least, is the idea of risk management for the internal operations of a supply chain, distribution center, or warehouse, specifically around the employees working there. You're talking about, in any given instance, forklifts, a lot of heavy equipment, inventory stacked 30 feet in the air, so obviously accidents can happen, and that risk mitigation for employees, I think, is really starting to bubble to the top as the leading driver.
Every aspect of the supply chain security is critical.
Yes.
But as the supply chain industry grows, and indeed it has, what are some of the trends and challenges you see developing specifically in the supply chain industry as it relates to security?
At some recent industry events, I had some interesting conversations with folks that are actually in that space. And they were sharing with me how during the COVID and during pandemic, their business grew by a factor of 7, 9, 12. Yeah. So they were putting up supply chains almost faster than they could get building permits. And what did that do? It caused a rush. You know, a lot of times at the last minute, it was almost an afterthought. I better get some cameras in here. I better get some access control. And so the decision-making power was pretty much left to the local general contractor or the local site manager. What we're seeing as these businesses kind of catch up with their own growth is they're becoming a little bit more sophisticated. They are bringing decision-making back to a centralized location because of all those things we mentioned in your first question, that instead of having a dozen, 2 dozen people out there all making somewhat random decisions for a local site, we see, again, a sophistication coming where they're saying, hey, you know what, we do want to have one pane of glass to measure our success with. We want to have one vendor that we can deal with nationwide. We want to have risk mitigate, all the analytics in a single repository that we can manage our entire network instead of doing it piecemeal by site.
So why is security integration so important specifically to the supply chain?
Well, security integration really starts with, you know, everything from the parking lot, inside the walls, ceiling to floor. You are talking about access and egress all day long with trucks, employees. You're talking about, in a lot of cases, some very high valued inventoried items. One of the things that we have found out is that it's not so much the value of the item, but it's the potential PR downfall if that item finds a way outside. For instance, a weapons manufacturer, an ammunitions manufacturer, if they lose a box of 9mm ammo, it's not going to be the end of their P&L, but it could be a PR nightmare for them if it falls into the wrong hands outside of that facility. So again, it's not always the value of the product, but it is the optics around the products that they are inventorying that drives a lot of the enhanced security solutions that we're seeing.
So where is the innovation? I mean, are we just talking about bringing to bear existing types of technology and systems and propagating them across the supply chain, or are there some innovative solutions out there that we should know about?
Yeah, and I want to credit the customers because a lot of the innovation has been driven by customer needs. Mm-hmm. I have seen just in the last 12 months some things that, you know, I don't think anybody ever thought of 12 months ago. For instance, we all are familiar with going through an airport and the screening process and the phone booth. It's cumbersome, it's uncomfortable. And randomly you would be wanded or checked. So that means somebody's in your personal space. We've all kind of come to live with it since 9/11. There are companies out there that have come up with screening methodologies that simply capture your body's heat register. There's no invasive approach. Nobody gets within 16 feet of you. There's no X-ray radiation coming at your body like it is when you go through the airport. And again, I want to just mitigate that by saying at the airport it's such a low dose, it's not lethal or harmful in any way, but some people do get concerns around that. So there's that. Within the warehousing space, there's a lot of equipment that becomes supremely important. Fire extinguishers, defibrillators, things that can get audited by, the fire chief, the fire marshal, other auditors that come in. And if they're not where they're supposed to be at any given time, there could be financial penalties around it. There have been solutions that have been driven with a GPS tracking device for fire extinguishers and defibrillators and other things, eye wash stations, that people commonly move from point A to point B and forget to move it back to point A. So we've got a lot of things like that in development. The most recent thing that I have seen that I would have never thought of is the aspect of loitering. So one of the things that we have been shown through a lot of research is that congregants of people loitering around places, outside access doors that really are not on the clock, it's not their shift. They could just be exchanging some stories with work buddies or whatever, but that often leads to some pretty bad behavior. They're waiting for the right time of day, they're waiting for a shift change to do something illegal or inappropriate. And so there is a security product that's in development right now, soon to go to market, that detects if a human being is standing around a door for X period of time. Now we can build all this into the customer's business rules, but these are things that we wouldn't have thought of a year ago that are really coming to bear right now and will be, if not in the market already, will be very shortly. So we're excited about the fact that customers are coming to us with solutions that they need because of things that they've encountered, whether it's an audit or a review or whatever the case may be. They were so painful at whatever point that we can't have this happen again. We need a solution to fix this.
Well, who knows better than the customer?
Exactly.
What they need. Thanks so much for those insights, Jamie.
Sure.
But I want to ask you for just a moment to tell me a little bit about Vector Security Networks itself. Where do you guys fit into the picture?
So the rankings just came out. Vector is the 4th largest security company in North America. We're proud of that distinction. And one of the things that really drew me to Vector from the industry that I was in was not only the culture here. It's very, very positive. We celebrate victories, we celebrate wins. Vector has a way of being that type of ear to the ground company. And so all these solutions that we just mentioned in that last question, Vector is actively cultivating those because our customers have come to us and we said, we need you to find somebody who can do this. A lot of times when we look at that opportunity, the internal developmental cost is just too Herculean for us to take it on. And so we have a team of folks, product innovation folks, who go out and search for somebody who may already be doing that. More often than not, we find somebody who fits the bill. And a lot of times their packaged product is exactly what our customer needs. In a lot of cases, it maybe needs a tweak here or there. But I think unlike some of the other security companies, we don't say, this is our box of products, take it or leave it. We want you to come to us with something that's out of the box. We want you to come to us and say, hey, we have got this pain point that just developed because of this new regulation or this new law. What can you do to help us mitigate that? That's what we want to. And in our exploratory and our discovery calls with our customers or prospects, we are always asking those questions. What keeps you up at night? What is it that hasn't been thought of that if it were, would help you sleep better? And so that's, I think, the difference between Vector and our competition.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Jamie, for helping me to understand just what's going on with security in the supply chain. It's becoming increasingly critical, and also telling me a little bit about Vector. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
I've been speaking with Jamie Rutherford of Vector Security Networks. Thank you very much for watching.